What's up, guys? Going to show you something cool, how to prep a big bonita for swordfish baits. Okay, you ready? Here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to cut that belly off. I'm going to go kind of slow here, all right, just to show you exactly what I do. And again, look, there's 1,000 different ways to do this. I'm not saying my way is the best way. I'm saying my way works, and it's a great place for you to start. There's not a lot of info online on how to prep the bonita itself before rigging it, and that's what I want to share with you. Understand this is going to be a two-part series. Part one, prepping the bonita. Part two, rigging the bonita into swordfish baits. So first, you've got to start with the bait itself, readily available. And what's nice about these big bonitas, you could usually get 3, sometimes even 5 baits from one big giant bonita. So really cost effective, especially when you realize that swordfish baits are 40 bucks a pop if you go to buy them. So really a good value as far as a bait fish is concerned. Tremendous scent, nice thick skin so it stays on the hook real well, and just an all-around killer swordfish bait. First thing we're going to do is remove the belly. That's going to give us another bait altogether, just down in this portion down here. So we're literally just going to stick our knife in, okay, and in one smooth motion, we're going to go all the way back, boom, and then we're just going to come right back in and cut that out. There we go. And that in itself, let's get out all of this gack, okay, all these guts. This in itself is ultimately going to turn into another beautiful bait. The belly, we're going to trim that and make another bait. But I want to talk to you about what's typically called bonita tacos, okay? That's what the name that has really been given to these baits. And you'll know why in a moment. It's when we fold that bait up, it almost looks like a taco, like a bonita taco. Look, first thing you need is a big clean work area. This is the Boat Outfitters Ultimate Fillet Table, couple of drawers for all my rigging gear, everything that I need to rig baits properly and to clean swordfish properly. So a nice, clean, safe work environment is really important. You're gonna see I rinse a lot. These are bloody and they're messy. First thing I've got to do is remove this fillet. One clean cut right there, okay? Then if you wanna, let's get some of these guts out of here. If you wanna just use the tip of your knife, you can insert the tip of your knife and just go right under the skin there if you need to. All right, so this way to ensure that you're gonna get that whole fillet off. There we go. Let's bring that right down. And I mean, this is pretty cut and dry. It doesn't take much to understand how to do this, but that straight cut is really important. And then we'll go under, and let's remove this entire slab. There it is. That ultimately is gonna be a 300-pound swordfish. Now let's flip it over. Let's do the same to the other side. Okay, again, real bloody, but we're gonna clean that up. We'll just use the tip of that knife, kind of go down in there. There we go. Okay. And of course, nice big bonitas are a bonus. Let's rinse this off. You don't want to do this inside. Certainly you can rig the final baits inside. You can prep them outside, fillet them, brine them if you'd like, and do the final rigging indoors, sitting down, because it does take some time and it'll be a nice, comfortable way to do it. But for starters, to clean the bonitas, you don't want to do this in the house or in the garage. Trust me, your wife will kill you. First thing we're going to do is remove a lot of this flesh. We've got to thin out that fillet. It's way too thick. Just going to take a knife and cut most of that meat right off. Okay, nice and easy. We don't want to go through the skin, but we want to remove a lot of that meat. Almost all of it. Okay, there we go. And look, save that. Okay, right there is just amazing, amazing bait for yellowtail snapper fishing. They can't resist fresh bonita, so you don't want to discard that. Let's trim these pieces here. Okay, a little thick down here still. Okay, and now what we need to do is remove this center line. We need to remove that. Let's cut these bones out. Okay, we need to remove this center line here. It's going to allow this bait to be much more pliable and much easier to work with, much more flexible. Okay, and it's just going to give us the ability to put together a far more effective swordfish bait. See how I removed all of that right there? Okay, let's cut that out. Now, rinse one more time. Okay. And now we're going to start to shave using our knife angled backwards. Don't angle the knife forward or you'll cut through all the flesh. Angle the knife backwards and just start to shave all of this off. Okay, let's get a little bit of that meat off of there. A little bit of too much there. Okay, just start to shave that. And it's okay if you missed a little, so to speak, if a little flesh, because that's all going to be trimmed off at the end of the day anyway. Okay, a little thick there. Shave, and now understand we need to fold this over, and that's why we remove that center line, because it's now going to be much easier to roll over and to work with. And this, while this section, remember this pointy end was the tail end of the bait, was back here, but when we're all said and done, that pointy end is going to be the front of the bait. It's going to be up here swimming in this direction. So the bait's actually going to be swimming backwards, I guess we'll call it. Okay, so we've got a nice slab. Let's fold it over. Everything's nice and even. Let's start trimming, just a rough trim. Okay, that's all you're doing right now is just a rough trim. Okay, you're going to come back later when you rig this bait and do all of the final stuff. Let's cut that out. I like to do these like a day, 2 days in advance. Let them sit in some brine. It firms them up. Okay, I don't like to freeze the baits if I don't have to. If I'm going to use the bait within a matter of days, I'm certainly not going to freeze it. But if you brine it, it will allow you to freeze that bait and get a good quality bait for a long time. Of course, brined and vacuum sealed. Let's rinse this off. Pelicans are loving it. Okay. So we've got a really, I don't know, about 1/4 of an inch of flesh left on there. I like to leave some meat on there for the odor, you know, the taste. You don't want it to be nothing but skin. Folds over perfectly. There we go. And that right there is what ultimately is going to turn into just a killer swordfish bait. But that's where it all starts. And it all starts with prepping the bonito the right way. You know, it's really an important step in all of this. And as I mentioned to you, at the end, we're going to come in and trim this. This is just a rough trim that we've got going on right here. But that, we'll cut off a little bit of that. Sharp knife is a must. You can see we're going to cut off a little of that. You want everything to be symmetrical. You want that bait, and you can almost see how already it's very streamlined, very eel-like. Okay, very straight, very eel-like. And once that's fully rigged and sewed together with a skirt and trimmed, that thing is just going to be absolutely deadly. Look at that beautiful skin pattern. Oh, swordfish aren't going to be able to resist that. Let's do another one real quick here. We'll leave that there. Okay, let's take all this flesh off. There we go. You know, you could always go down deeper and deeper. In other words, don't take too much off and regret it. So there we go. And once again, we're going to save that yellowtail snapper bait. Buddy's going to love me. So we still have a lot on here that we can thin out. Beautiful. Oh yeah, this one's going to really look good. Here. Get rid of all this. And you're like carving it. I mean, shaping it, literally, just a little bit at a time is what you're doing, is just literally shaping that whole entire fillet to give you something that's pliable that you can work with. We're now going to remove that entire center line there. All those bones, little spines. Small little sharp knife is really going to make this job easier, or a pair of utility cutters like the Highliner utility cutters. Those are a great tool. You'll see me using those a lot when we're actually rigging the baits. Okay, so you see that center line is gone, right? It now makes the bait much more pliable and easier to work with. But it's still real thick. We need to shave and cut a lot more of that off. Just too thick. You got to find that right balance where there's enough flesh on there, but yet it's easy enough to work with. There we go, we're getting there now. Beautiful, beautiful. Oh yeah. So here I am, I'm pretty close to where I want to be on the thickness, but I feel like I got to just shave some off. So I'm going to hold that knife at an angle backwards. If you hold it forward, you'll destroy the fillet. Okay, so hold it at angle backwards and just start shaving. Nice and even, bring all of that down. It's a little too thick down here. Okay, we still got a few bones right there that we want to cut out. Don't be in a rush. Take pride in rigging your baits. Trust me, it's incredibly rewarding. It adds a whole new level of reward catching swordfish on baits that you rigged yourself. Really is a game changer. Let's rinse this off. And it'll save you a ton of money. Rigged swordfish baits are like 40 bucks a pop. You know, rightfully so. It takes a lot of time, effort, terminal tackle, but they're expensive. So doing it yourself not only is rewarding, but also financially makes a lot of sense. And bonitas are readily available. There we go, look at that. Still shaving, getting that nice thickness that I want, nice and even all the way across. And once again, this is a rough shave, okay? We're gonna come back later and shape it up once we're done, once we're rigging the bait. Now, at this stage, yes, we can fold over nice and easily. And remember, this was the tail of the bait back here, but this now is going to be where we rig the bait. This is going to be the front of the bait. The bait's going to be swimming in this direction. So the tail is going to be the front of the bait. Little, confusing, but trust me, it makes a lot of sense because of the grain of the meat and how that fillet is going to swim. So I'm going to fold it over and just do a rough cut. Once again, I know I'm going to come back later and trim it more, but I at least want to get it somewhat trimmed to where I want it. Get all that excess off. There we go. Man, these are going to be beautiful baits. We can cut some of this off down here too. We don't need that. Cut a little bit of that. Okay, keep a little bit of extra meat right there that we want to take off. Perfect. Shade that. It's like being an artist. Literally, you're handcrafting these baits. Rigging swordfish baits, man, very rewarding, but very time consuming. And literally, you got to be like a bait artist. And now as I look at that bait, I'm pretty close to where already I want it to be. I'm just going to do a little bit of rough trimming, a little more. There we go. Okay, now you can start to see what we've got going on here, right? That's going to be folded over. Oh, yeah, baby. Oh, yeah. Beautiful. Trim that a little bit. Okay, once again, we'll come and do all that final trim once we rig that bait. But there it is. There's one. Here's our other one. Right there in a different direction. That's going to be the front of the bait. That'll be the front of the bait. Right there, we left it with about 1/4 inch of flesh. Some guys like to go thinner. Some guys even like to, keep it thicker. I think that 1/4 inch is about the right amount. Okay, it keeps the bait pliable, but there's a lot of odor and scent. And those two baits are ready to be rigged. So stick around. For part 2, we're going to break it down with all the terminal tackle, the skirts. But I'm telling you what, guys, super important, okay? Fresh bait is absolutely vital for sword fishing, okay? Will they eat frozen baits? Of course they will. But if you're going out there and dropping one bait to the bottom, or two baits if you're fishing a buoy rod too, 1,500 to 2,000 feet below the surface, 25, 30 miles, sometimes upwards of 100 miles offshore, don't you want to drop the freshest bait that you possibly can? So do it right, and you'll stay tight.